Every morning before sunrise, Ethan Carter woke to the same quiet routine. He would gently tuck the blanket around his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, prepare her lunch with whatever food remained in the refrigerator, and leave a handwritten note beside her cereal bowl. "Be brave. Dad will always come home." It had become their little tradition ever since Lily's mother passed away 3 years earlier. Life had not been kind to Ethan. Medical bills had consumed every dollar he had saved. The construction company where he worked shut down during an economic downturn, and despite months of searching, no employer seemed interested in hiring a 40-year-old father whose resume had a growing employment gap. The rent was overdue. The electricity company had already sent its final warning. Even so, Ethan refused to let Lily see despair. Whenever she smiled, he smiled. Whenever she laughed, he forgot his own pain. Because to him, she was still the greatest blessing life had ever given him. One rainy Monday morning, Ethan noticed a hiring poster taped to the glass doors of Blackwood Global, one of the city's largest technology companies. Cleaner needed, immediate opening. The pay wasn't impressive, the position wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. Without hesitation, Ethan stepped inside. The lobby gleamed beneath crystal lights. Employees in expensive suits hurried across polished marble floors, while Ethan stood quietly in worn-out shoes that had been repaired more times than he could remember. Several applicants sat waiting. Most avoided looking at him. His jacket was old, his umbrella leaked. He looked like someone life had forgotten. The receptionist handed him an application form. He filled it out carefully. Name, address, emergency contact, previous employment. Then under reason for applying, he wrote only one sentence. "My daughter deserves stability." He folded the paper neatly and returned it with a grateful smile. He expected nothing. He certainly never imagined his application would travel all the way to the top floor. Normally, the CEO never reviewed applications for maintenance staff. But that morning, an assistant accidentally placed Ethan's file inside a stack of executive reports. Hours later, Billionaire CEO Adrian Blackwood glanced through the paperwork before an afternoon meeting. He almost skipped past the application. Then his eyes stopped. Applicant, Ethan Carter. The pen slipped from his fingers. He stared at the name. His breathing slowed. His assistant noticed the sudden silence. "Sir, is something wrong?" Adrian didn't answer. Instead he quietly asked, "Where is this applicant now? He should still be waiting downstairs." Adrian stood so abruptly that everyone in the boardroom fell silent. He canceled the meeting without explanation. The executives exchanged confused looks as the billionaire hurried toward the elevator. When the doors opened into the lobby, Ethan was preparing to leave. He assumed he hadn't been selected. Adrian froze, older, thinner, more tired, but unmistakably the same man. Ethan looked up. For several seconds neither spoke. Finally Adrian whispered, "You really don't remember me, do you?" Ethan studied his face. He searched his memory. "I'm sorry." Adrian smiled sadly. "I didn't think you would." The receptionist watched in disbelief as the billionaire invited the cleaner applicant into his private office. No one understood why. Inside the office overlooking the city skyline, Adrian poured 2 cups of coffee. His hands trembled. 20 years ago, he began, "I wasn't a billionaire. I was 18. I had no money, no family, no future." Ethan listened quietly. "I lived in my car for almost 6 months. His voice cracked. "One freezing winter night my car broke down outside a small auto repair shop." Ethan's expression slowly changed. Adrian continued. "The owner had already closed, but one mechanic stayed behind. He fixed my engine. When I admitted I couldn't pay," Adrian looked directly into Ethan's eyes. "He refused to let me leave hungry. He bought me dinner. He filled my gas tank, and before I drove away, he handed me $200. I tried to repay him. He wouldn't accept. He simply said, 'One day, if life gives you more than you need, help someone else.'" The office became silent. Ethan leaned back. The memory finally returned. A frightened teenager, a broken-down car, snow falling outside. He had completely forgotten. To Ethan it had simply been the right thing to do. "You," Adrian nodded. "I never forgot." He opened a small leather wallet. Inside was a faded $20 bill. "I've carried this ever since. It reminds me of the man who believed I was worth helping before anyone else did." Ethan stared in disbelief. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to." Adrian smiled. "I've spent 20 years trying to find you, but every trail disappeared. I thought maybe you'd moved or—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Instead he quietly asked, "What happened?" Ethan told him everything. His wife's illness, the hospital bills, Losing the house, losing his business, months of rejection. Trying to protect Lily from knowing how close they were to losing everything. Adrian listened without interrupting. When Ethan finished, there was no pity in Adrian's eyes, only gratitude. You saved my future, now let me protect yours. Ethan shook his head. I don't want charity, I came here to work. Adrian smiled. I know, that's exactly why you deserve the opportunity. The following morning, every executive gathered for an emergency announcement. Rumors spread quickly. Some believed a major acquisition was coming, others expected layoffs. Instead, Adrian walked onto the stage beside Ethan. Employees whispered, "Wasn't that yesterday's cleaner applicant?" Adrian addressed the room. Success is often credited to intelligence, or ambition, but neither built this company. He looked toward Ethan. Kindness did. The room became perfectly still. Adrian shared the story from 20 years earlier. By the time he finished, many employees had tears in their eyes. This man expected nothing in return. He invested in someone the world had already abandoned. If he hadn't, there would be no Blackwood Global. Then Adrian surprised everyone. I offered Ethan a management position. He declined. He said he wanted to earn every opportunity. The audience smiled. So, I'm giving him exactly that. Ethan Carter will begin as Director of Community Services. His department would oversee employee volunteer programs, scholarship funds, emergency family assistance, and neighborhood outreach. Not because of favoritism, because no resume could better qualify someone to lead compassion. Applause echoed through the auditorium. But Ethan stood speechless. Later that evening he returned home carrying groceries for the first time in weeks. Lily ran into his arms. Did you get the job? He laughed through happy tears. I think I got something even better. Months passed. Under Ethan's leadership, Blackwood Global transformed. Employees volunteered thousands of hours each year. Families facing emergencies received confidential financial assistance. Scholarships were created for children who had lost a parent. Cleaning staff ate in the same dining areas as executives. No employee was invisible anymore. Whenever someone asked Adrian why he invested so much in people instead of profits, he smiled. Because profits built my company, but one act of kindness built my life. One afternoon, Ethan visited the old repair shop where he had once worked. The building had long been abandoned. Dust covered the windows, rust covered the doors. He quietly placed a small bronze plaque beside the entrance. It read, "Never underestimate a simple act of kindness. The life you save today may someday change the world." Years later, Lily graduated from college. During her commencement speech, she shared a lesson her father had taught her. You don't become rich by counting what you have. You become rich by remembering who helped you when you had nothing. Among the audience sat Adrian. He applauded longer than anyone else. Because he knew those words were true. Long before there were billion-dollar buildings, private jets, international awards, or magazine covers, there had simply been a struggling mechanic who looked at a frightened young stranger and chose compassion over convenience. That single decision echoed across decades. It saved one life. Then another, then thousands more. Sometimes the greatest debt in the world cannot be repaid with money. It can only be honored by passing kindness forward, one life at a time.